Welcome, everyone, to Wednesday night. It is Direct Line, Maryland GOP's podcast, Direct Line. We have another exciting, fun-filled, action-packed show today. Our special guest this evening is Dr. Frank Nice, candidate for House of Delegates in Legislative District 19, which covers parts of Silver Spring, Durwood, Olney, Washington Grove, and all other points, because it is a big, crazy district. And our hosts tonight are Mark Unkefer and Jackie Saxton. Take it away, guys.
I think Dwight lost the script, was freeballing it tonight. That was a new one. I keep looking at all those photos in the opening, and I'm like, what's missing from this? It's big old crab. Got to add that.
But you notice there was plenty of pizza there.
Always plenty of pizza, though.
And Cal Ripken, too.
Cal Ripken, yeah. Thanks for joining us, Dr. Nice. Spiragne's missing. So I think the first question that I have for you, if we're jumping right into it, is what spurred you into running? Because I happen to know a lot about your past. We've talked multiple times, and we'll get into that later. And you have a lot of philanthropy in your past. So what shifted from that to politics?
Well, there wasn't a shift, but it was a beginning. There's actually an external reason and a internal reason. The internal reason is what you allude to, but the external reason, I'll get to the internal. But I play on softball teams here, like a bunch of old guys, and I last year played like 200 games, and I get to know the guys really well. And believe it or not, most of the guys I'm playing with are not of my party; they're the opposite party. And a couple of them came up to me about a year and a half ago and said, "Frank, you need to run for a county executive." And I said, "County executive? What do you mean by that?" "Well, Frank, we know all about your past and your history, and you'd be a really good person." I said, "Well, why do you want me?" And they said, "Well, we're Democrats, but there's a Democrat slate, and if we go to them, if our issues not their issues, they don't want to listen to us. So you give us some hope that we can have someone else in there that will listen to us and run." So I never thought about running for office up until that point. And so I went into the central headquarters, told them I want to run for county executive. And they all looked at me and said, I don't think so. I said, "Why don't you run for a district delegate?" So I thought about it. Okay, it makes more sense. And that's why I decided. And I'm glad I did, because we've really got a great candidate in Solly Sullivan right now. And I don't know why I've been as good as he is. The internal reason is what you've talked about. For the last 40, 45 years, I've worked with the underserved. I've worked with the less fortunate people. I've been to Haiti 24 times, a medical mission, done a lot of work down there. And I was with the federal government for 43 years, so I couldn't run for office, never thought about it. And I was able to do a lot of philanthropy too there and on my own. And I haven't been able to go to Haiti for like 3.5 years because it's just too dangerous now. So it's like a perfect storm. I said, well, why don't I run for office and be able to actually do things officially to help people and to do what I was able to do before on my own.
And it's really refreshing to actually get a candidate who says, "I'm running because I want to help people." Because most of the time people say that and they're like, they want to help themselves. But, getting to know you, you definitely are in it to help people, which is something you don't find a lot in these days.
Right. What I think is telling is that I've been doing this on my own for 45 years, and I'm not speaking. I say I'm a public servant in both word and deed. Most public servants are public servants in word, but you ask them about the deeds, and it doesn't really happen. I don't think there's another candidate in the county that has the background that I have in working with the disenfranchised and the less fortunate.
Well, tell us a little bit about, you mentioned some of the philanthropy you're doing, and I was kind of interested in your trips to Haiti. Could you kind of elaborate on professionally what you've been doing before you decided to run for office?
You're talking about Haiti specifically?
Yes, right.
About 25 years ago, our church had a program set up with the church in Haiti, and it was a regular mission. And I went down there 25 years ago as a lay member. And as I walked into the clinic, which was basically falling down, I opened this creaky door into the pharmacy, and there was like 3 bottles on the shelves. I started talking to the nurse. She said, "We've never had a pharmacist here. We've never had a doctor we can see. All they see is the nurses, and most times we can't do anything." So it was in my heart that I needed to do more, and I was able to get some people together. We started the medical mission 5 years ago. I've been there 24 times on the ground. And in addition to that, I also founded and established a K-13 school for over 550 students, and over 50 live in orphans. And one other thing, in the last couple of years, the Haitian people, the children, have a chance now to go to college in Haiti, and I'm supporting over 24 children to go to college in all different areas of practice.
Wow, that's awesome.
And people will say, well, yeah, that's great. You're doing all this thing for Haiti. What are you doing for people here? Well, actually, for 45 years of my career, I've been working with the pregnant women, breastfeeding women, both in the underserved community, less fortunate community, and those that are not. And we've been working with them to have successful pregnancies and breastfeeding outcomes. And I've been working very much with the Black and Hispanic community, especially, to try to overcome. And there is inequity in healthcare, and there's proper ways of defining what really it is too. So that's I've been doing that on my own, pro bono. I don't charge for anything. I still consult with breastfeeding women daily, and it's just in my heart to continue to do that.
That's great. So, I mean, definitely one of the biggest challenges in any race in a general election is crossover appeal, right? You can't win with just Republican votes, particularly in Montgomery County. So how have you been reaching out to unaffiliated voters, independent voters, and Democrats? Or what's your message to them to say, hey, yes, there's an R next to my name, but I represent you and I want to represent everybody?
Okay. The goal of my messaging from the beginning has been to emphasize what my experience and background is. It's not a political background, but it's a background where I've learned a lot about a lot of things. And my first premise is that I, or other candidates, will tell you that they know what is best for others and tell them how to lead their lives. I've been on the ground actually leading the lives of the people that I work with. I've been doing that. I've been working with them. So my message is that, like I said before, I'm an activist and I'm a healthcare activist, but I'm a different kind of activist. I'm not one that works from the top down. I work from the bottom up. I'm on the ground with the people. And I think there's enough people in Montgomery County. I think Republicans are going to agree with me, and most independents would. I basically have to win about 35% of the Democrat vote. And I think there's enough people like those teammates on my softball team that really resonate with this message. And we're all human beings. We all know that people need help, whether we're Democrat or Republicans. And others are going to, Democrats are going to say, yeah, he's a Republican, forget it. But I've talked to other people. I've talked to independents, Republicans, and that is the message that resonates with them. So that's where I'm going to take it. I'm going to be different, new and different than any other candidate out there. And we see where it goes.
Can you help us a little bit? I mean, I know the boundaries change as a result of redistricting, and sometimes it's a challenge for people, particularly in Montgomery County, since we've now essentially 8.5 districts, to orient themselves. Talk about what communities that are all in District 19.
Okay, that's a good question. There's actually about 12 distinct communities in my district. It's probably one of the most gerrymandered districts in the county. I call it a wounded salamander with bulges, cancerous bulges coming off different parts of it. So yeah, I have about 12 different communities. And going back to Jackie's question, I have to tailor my message to each of those communities because they're distinctly different. I've listened to candidates talk in different affairs in different communities. You hear the same thing over and over, and that just doesn't make sense. So it starts in Durwood and takes in just a little chunk of Gaithersburg up by Oakmont across from the post office. Then it goes over to Shady Grove. And then when it gets over to Muncaster Mill Road, a chunk goes up to Laytonsville, up to Air Park and Fields Crest, and then comes down Muncaster Road out of Durwood and Shady Grove, goes down to Bowie Mill area and picks up a quarter of Olney. It then goes over into the Bauer-Norbeck neighborhoods, and it actually ends up with a couple blocks bordered by Veers Mills Road. It now comes back over to Georgia Avenue and goes down to Aspen Hill. It goes down from Aspen Hill into Wheaton. On the right side of Georgia Avenue, it ends at Weller Road, and now it goes across the other side. That other side goes all the way back to Norbeck Road, and he includes all of Leisure World. And now it takes down Lay Hill Road down to Aspen Hill, Glenmont, goes into Wheaton, then goes over to Wheaton a regional area, park area, and then finally ends up at Four Corners and Kemp Mill down in Silver Spring. So kind of the three very ethnic or different types of groups are that you could take out are it's a big Jewish community down at the Kemp Mill area. We have about 20% of my district is Hispanic and Latino, which is mainly Wheaton, Glenmont area. And then I have the older group of people out in Leisure World, and there are about 8,000 to 9,000 people out there. Almost everyone votes. A majority of them are Democrat. So my messaging is going to be very much different out there. I'm going to emphasize that I am literally one of those people. I'm probably older than a lot of people out in Leisure World, and I literally have led their lives. And I'm going to ask them, give me a chance for 4 years. Let me prove myself. And then if I'm not good, then go back to the way it was. They're going to get 2 Democrats no matter what.
Yeah.
I was going to say that actually gives you one of the probably one of the most famous. It's now not a single precinct, but back when Leisure World was a single precinct, it was the perhaps one of the most famous precincts in the state of Maryland.
I can see why. The first time I ever came to this area was when I was first in the service in 1969, and you drove up Georgia Avenue. It was 2 lanes, woods, farms, and everything. And the only thing you saw was that big globe on Georgia Avenue till you got to Olney. So yeah, it's a key and corner of my district that we really need to get at least 40% of those voters to vote. And I think with my record and my age, that it's going to be an advantage over, especially the protagonists that I would like to defeat in this election.
And you're right in the sense that it is a very engaged community. So there are people who pay attention, learn the issues, and become familiar with the candidates. And so if you can get them to consider you, I think you have a great shot there. I'm sorry, Jackie, I interrupted you.
Go ahead. So when you get elected, because we are optimists here at Direct Line, when you get elected as delegate, what would you say are the top 3 things that you'd like to accomplish?
All right. The top 3 things, and again, they're based on and what I've been working on in my last 45 years, and especially in Haiti too, the poorest country of the poor. And so I know what it's like down there. And my 3 issues that I would like to work on are that I think no family, no individual should lack access to health care, and especially for our veterans. I'm a veteran. You see them out in the street corners, and you talk to veterans, and it's a huge issue. And what is on top of that are the mental issues that they deal with. And not only do they deal with it, but you look in our schools now, that's happening. And one of the worst things Maryland has ever done in the last couple of decades is to close our mental facilities and put many of these people out in the street. So, I'm a pharmacist, so healthcare, and I know there's inequity in healthcare access. I've written about it, I've talked about it, I've worked on it, and how we can work with that. The second one is, again, I support a school in Haiti, and I think everyone, including the people in Haiti, and we're doing it, and the people in Montgomery County deserve an excellent education, and they need access to that. And what is that defined by? It's defined by student access. And I think success. And I think one of the best ways to give students success is to direct our funding to the students, which gives them and their families control over where the funds are going to go, and they can choose the excellent education they want. And the other parts of it are parental rights and a transparent curriculum. So I think those are huge in having people. We can do that in Haiti. We can do that in Montgomery County. And the last is that no one should lack access to adequate housing in safe neighborhoods. Now, if you notice, I didn't say affordable housing, which 99.9% of people say affordable housing. That's just one key. And that's based on money. And that's based on what are your wants, not your needs. Adequate housing is what we really need to be talking about, because that's what people are looking for. They just need that. Does that include, the house is big enough for me? I don't care if the ceiling's only 8 foot tall, it's not 12 feet tall, but I'm comfortable. We have what we need. We're next to good schools. And it becomes, what are our needs? And there's many ways then we can work with these families to get them adequate housing. We're talking about money. It's like we're going to throw money at this and we're going to just give them what we think is affordable and what they should be using. Now, safe neighborhoods. My biggest protagonist in the candidate I'm against is he was the author of the Dignity Not Detention Act, which means now we give dignity to illegal actions and not detention to illegal actions. Well, that's not the way to treat families that are following the law, doing things. They deserve the dignity and respect. And then the final thing is that our law enforcement needs to be supported, and that includes not defunding the police.
Well, that covers a lot of issues. And I was kind of glad you were able to kind of talk about what your priorities are for that.
He's going to have a busy first couple of years.
I don't plan to, when I am elected, just to be down there 90 days and that's it. I'm a 24/7, guy, and especially when it comes to working with people and people that need, help. And that's what it'll be for me. I'll fit in some softball games, but I will be there with them. I'll be on the ground.
That's what's important. So this is kind of a tricky answer, because I think that the easy answer is I am my own candidate. I don't liken myself to anybody. But is there somebody currently or previously who have served in the Maryland legislature that you would liken yourself to, or that you admire in the way that they've conducted themselves legislatively, personally?
Legislatively, with the legislator being really controlled by one party and all that, I really didn't get into it too much. But I'd have to say Neil Parrott. Because when I decided to run, I contacted Neil and he really mentored me. And he said, Frank, take the Leadership Institute course and, I'll help you and advise you. And he's been there, and I've met his family. I've met him so many times. I mean, his family reminds me of my family, and he reminds me of me, and his kids remind me of my kids. And how much more can I say? So it's because I think Neil went out of his way. He didn't have to. I talked to other candidates or delegates and senators, from my own party, and you talk to say, Frank, if you need help, get a hold of us. And I don't hear anything. It's kind of disappointing. So Neil would be the person that would be, and now I can't even vote for him. But
you're just like me.
Yeah, he would be my role model, because I think everybody should be a mentor to someone, and he chose to help me do that.
So as you go door to door, as you're meeting voters and hearing what their concerns are, what kind of feedback are you getting from voters with your message, and what are sort of the top issues that people are talking about?
I think education is definitely tops. I know the school moms are very huge populated out there, and are not happy with what's going on. I think they're the ones that can relate. They do relate to where we are going and what we stand for, because I'm not a mom, I'm not a woman, but there's certainly something to be said for the maternal instinct. And I've worked with enough pregnant breastfeeding women to learn a little bit more about them. That I think is one of the biggest issues. It's not taxes. I'm serious. It's not inflation, because basically we are one of the wealthiest counties in the country. And a lot of us can stand up there and say, well, I can take the inflation, I can take the taxes, but I'm not going to take what they're doing to my children at school. And so you won't hear me talking about taxes, inflation. And I don't think I hear many people talking about that. It's issues like that. And healthcare it's very huge that people, and being a pharmacist, I know that too. And I hear inside the healthcare system, it is so bureaucratic and so tough to manage and work through, even for me and others as healthcare professionals. And they need help, and we need to be there to help them. And they're so thankful that I am a pharmacist and that can relate to what they're going through, because I go through the same thing. So again, those are my issues. And then I'm hearing more and more about safety. I mean, the gas station just down the road has been robbed. The cars have been hijacked. And my fellow candidate, Anita Cox's car was stolen a couple weeks ago. So we're starting to talk more about that. My wife goes out walking and I go out, and the women just don't want to be out there again. Like before you went out and you had no fears at all. So I'm going to say I'm fortunate that their issues kind of overlap my issues, but I'm glad they do, because I can offer a lot more help in doing that, especially more if I can get down to be a delegate.
So it's definitely going to be interesting. We haven't had Republican representation in Montgomery County for quite some time, particularly in the state legislature.
Right.
You hear a lot from these candidates, Republican candidates, who are saying, this is what I was able to provide for my county. And I do find that back and forth interesting, that you're there not just to get funds and to represent your own county, but also to represent the entire state, right?
Right. I mean, people say to me, they'll say to me, well, I'm not in your district. I can't vote for you. Or I live in Prince George's County. I said, wait a minute. When I'm elected, I'm a state delegate. I'm everybody's delegate, and I will work with everybody. Yeah, I'm going to look out for my own district. I have more of a special interest, but that always bothered me about any representative, where once they got in, it was about themselves, about their own people, about the pork barrel and everything else. No, we're representing everyone. And that really resonates with the people that can't vote for me, and they're helping support my campaign.
Absolutely.
So you've talked about the issues that you run across in Montgomery County, but I think you raise a great point about sort of the breadth of the issues that you deal with as a delegate. Certainly one of the questions is Baltimore. So based on your own personal experience and looking forward to you being a delegate, what do you see as some of the ways in which the state can address some of the challenges that Baltimore is facing?
The way I look at it, and we're always looking at how do you deal with the outcomes of what's going on. And I've been a researcher, I've been a pharmacist, and I've done my dissertation, everything else. I've learned a lot, because we don't want to make bad decisions based on what the outcome is. We want to make decisions based on what the process is. Mm-hmm. And root cause analysis is huge. And when you look at that, you don't blame people for it. You don't blame the process itself. You look at everything. And I think it's what we need to do is look at what is the root cause analysis, or the root causes of these things. And not only in Baltimore, but in other areas too. It has to, I've seen great changes in the way we live from the times I was growing up in a coal mining town. We come down here. In a way, you could even say Baltimore is almost like a coal mining city, or was. And those values, the virtue we held, the morality, the ethics are just gone. And I think Ben Carson said it perfectly. I mean, he's spoken in Baltimore, and he says that we have to deal with the issues that are causing the outcomes. Forget about the outcomes and work from the bottom up and not from the top down. And hopefully people will relate, again, that I'm not just talking over and above them, but I'm talking from all the way from Haiti up to Baltimore. It's you talk about Baltimore. I mean, I go to Haiti. I'm in Port-au-Prince. I mean, you would say, wow, Baltimore's like heaven compared to Port-au-Prince. So it's something that I think we can relate to and start working from the bottom up instead of from the top down.
So you mentioned on your website under the issues, I think something that a lot of people might not be aware of, and I found interesting, particularly as a soon-to-be homeowner, the bans on balloons and driveway sealants and the continuation of the rain tax. Because I know that rain tax is probably a big part of the reason that Governor Hogan was able to get elected, right? Because something as absurd as taxing the rain. So can you talk more about that?
Yeah, you know what our delegates have done. We have we dominate the assembly. I mean, yeah, we're maybe a third of the total votes, but that's huge. And it doesn't take much more to get something passed. So by dominating that, what they've done is set up special laws or guidelines or taxes for Montgomery County. So when it was abolished in almost every other county, they kept it in Montgomery County. Now, you look on your tax bill, it's called Water Resource Fund or something like that. And for us, it's maybe $50 a year. Well, I'm a small businessman. I know small businessmen, and their whole lot is like paved. The roof is all over everything because they deal with cars. They renovate cars or whatever. And they're talking like $10,000 in extra taxes in just the Montgomery County. And to take that another step, yeah, it's not only about balloons and everything. Now we have like and Von Stewart, who is our delegate, that he did the, I'm sorry, Dignity Not Detention Law. He was the author, but he now tells us what sealant we can use to coat our driveways, what paint we can use to paint our homes. I would just ask Vaughn, I say, how many driveways have you sealed in your life? I've sealed like 3 dozen of them or more. And you're going to tell me you know what's better for me to put on my driveway and safer for me? But that's what's happening, and especially they will single us out for certain other things. Now, I don't know if that's only for Montgomery County. It might be for everybody. I have a feeling most of those are Montgomery County, and they deal with things like balloons and straws and all that. And basically, they're telling us how to lead our lives, and only that thing that's left is the air we breathe, which I guess is down the line.
That, I mean, there literally is a ridiculous, and of course I'm going to make this reference, a SpongeBob episode where Mr. Krabs taxes Squidward for breathing because the whole thing. Great episode, highly recommend. But no, you're completely right. I mean, it's ridiculous taxes like that actually could convince Democrats in the People's Republic of Montgomery County to vote differently. And I didn't even know that the supposed rain tax is still happening here under a different name.
Right.
I thought that was wrong.
And you talk about small. A lot of those businesses are mom and pop stores. They're Latino stores. My wife's Korean. They're Korean stores. They're Asian stores. They're like basically getting through each day and hoping they can make a little profit. And now you're hitting them in Montgomery County of all places with the rain tax that they're going to pay more because basically they don't have any lawn in front of their restaurant or mom and pop store. It's 100% rain tax, and it's not right. It's not right. And they don't know it. I mean, when you lump in all those taxes, it's just another probably $1,000 tax they have to pay. So we need to let them know that.
So have you come face to face with your Democrat opponents at all? Have you had a conversation with them since starting your campaign?
Right. The only one I haven't met is Bonnie Colson. Because I've met Von Stewart about 3 or 4 times. He's a down-to-earth, really nice guy, but we're like night and day, and I'm gonna build on that. I mean, he's actually one of the delegate members of several that belongs to the Socialist Democrat Association, which is like you should read their bylaws and what they plan to do. And I mean, he's got a 3-year-old daughter. He's just moved to another bigger house. His wife is pregnant. They're going to have another baby. He's had cancer. Yeah, he's a decent human being, but there's other things to it. And the other 2 I met were Charlotte Crutchfield I met once, a very nice lady, and Ben Kramer I've met about 3 or 4 times, and that guy just oozes, the oil and everything. It's like he just sucks you in. And but they all look at me at the end of the day and they say, well, you're a nice guy and everything, but we're not worried about you. They're very smug and very confident that I'm not going to do anything.
It's when you come from behind, right?
Yeah, right. Yes, exactly.
I want to go back and talk a little bit. You talked about affordable housing, and of course, that's a big issue in Montgomery County.
Sure. Oh yeah.
In part, our housing is so expensive, as Jackie is learning as she buys her first home, it's we pay a premium in order to live here. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts about how to address that issue? I thought it was kind of interesting when you kind of wanted to qualify what the appropriate definition should be.
Right, and I think it should be called adequate housing. I don't know what kind of house Jackie's looking at. Well, I have an example where one of my sons lived down in Loudoun County or Fairfax County, and the first house he bought was like an $800,000 house, and that became he wasn't affordable. We had to help him out. But anyway, I mean, it wasn't adequate. It was greatly more than adequate. My wife and I live in a little house in Durwood Station. It's very nice. Like I can touch the ceilings. We have it's not exorbitant or anything, but it's very adequate. When I started out, I lived in apartments. And then I moved into a little tiny house. I rented a little tiny house, and then bought a tiny house, bought a larger house. So that's how you work your way up. And the housing was always adequate and affordable. Became, if that's part of the equation, it became more affordable because it was meeting my needs and not my wants. I think the key to this is when you do that and you're looking for adequate housing, you can have programs like getting the real estate realtors involved in it, getting the bankers involved in it, working with people, showing how you can be responsible, what mortgage you can afford, what type of house you can afford, what you can put into it, and then what you can do later on and move up further. And if it takes something like get the education, and maybe we could help them out with, they met all the criteria to get the house. They've taken the courses, listen, and give them a reward, maybe $10,000 or something. It's not much. And it's better than throwing a lot more money at the program or building a quadruplex next to your single family home. So it's really, again, working from the ground up with the people and working with them, not throwing money at them and telling them what is best for them. You just increase the price of everything tremendously, affordability.
So certainly one of your primary areas of expertise is in healthcare. And I think that's an issue that we talk about at every level of the ballot, and every candidate we talk to. And of course, the answer is, well, what's the answer? What's the solution? Of course, I don't think any single person has the answer, but you talk a lot about how it is a right to have access to healthcare. And it's very important to have access to healthcare. So how would you approach that issue?
Okay, I think we have to approach it from the medical pharmacy inside out way. The bureaucrats have shown they can't do anything with this. And because why? Because within the healthcare system, they are, and we are as pharmacists, doctors, nurses, dentists, they're dealing with the bureaucracy within the healthcare system. And we're now talking about pharmacy benefit managers and managers that are third parties, and they work with the third-party payer insurance companies. They decide what care you're going to get. They decide how much you're going to pay for that care. They decide whether you're going to get prior authorization or not authorization for it. They decide before I can even print a prescription label out and give that prescription to the patient, I have to go into my computer, into the program, and get the third-party payer benefits manager to approve that, or I can't print the label out, and the patient's out there yelling and screaming at me, "Where's my prescription?" And they are dealing with the same bureaucracy we are, and it's unfathomable. And so I think the solution comes within the pharmacy organizations, the doctors groups and everything, because we're taking a beating just like everyone else. And I think we have much better solutions on how to handle this. My pharmacy organization has much better ways of dealing with things like prior authorization and other requirements. There's ways we can do that. But I think it has to be from the inside out at the practitioner level, not from the bureaucratic level from the outside in, or the bureaucratic level inside. We're not going anywhere with that.
So we do have a question in the chat, and I guess this would pick on more of your expertise as a pharmacist as well. Are we as a country getting more involved in making our own medication and not relying on China?
Oh, good question. I work for the FDA. 90% of our drug product, raw drug materials, that's what's used to make our drugs, make our pills and capsules. Right now, 90% comes from China. And when I was first became a pharmacist, there were 50 drug companies in the United States. Now there's 3 or something. Every one manufactured everything in the United States. Then it became cheap, everything else, economy of scale, for everybody to go to China. It is so huge in China that the FDA actually has offices in China to try to do inspections. We're supposed to do inspection every 3 years. We're lucky we get to do one every 10 years in China. So we are hostage to them. If we ever go to war with them and all, they control 90% of the raw product. We will have no more drugs. And to make that even worse, in India, they make 90% of the finished product. So we have control of 10% of what comes out of those products through our own country. So we have to stop relying on China, because when push comes to shove, we're not going to have any more drugs. We don't make them right now.
Yeah, and I would refer people back to the episode we had a couple weeks ago with Bonnie Glick, where we actually did dive into that issue of our reliance on China, and particularly the opportunity for India to kind of take over some of that manufacturing.
Right. Well, they got 90% of it. They have taken it over, and that then it is not only take it over but control it. If we're having any conflict or anything, we're not going to get any. Otherwise, we're going to pay a big price. We got to get out of there. West Virginia used to be one of the biggest states producing that, and then everybody says, West Virginia, a bunch of rednecks, yahoos. They know how to do things, and they do it good. And why can't we get them, our own people making our own drugs? We can do it. The big pharma's got so much money, and that's another issue. We're fighting big pharma now. They used to kind of be on our side. Now it's them against us. And maybe when they start seeing that they can't get their drugs to make profits, that'll move them. I don't think they're going to do it for us little people, but we need to get those drugs made in our country and produced in our country.
Mark, what else you got?
Well, I think we've covered a whole bunch of issues. We talked about education. We've talked about housing.
We've gotten very efficient.
We've gotten very efficient. We haven't talked about crime, and I know that's been an issue that has been, at least other candidates have talked about the impact that's having. Is that an issue in your district, and what are people saying about that?
It is becoming an issue. Now, I live in Darwood, which is, I think a pretty nice area. But like I said, there's been some carjackings, a couple armed robberies at the gas station. Like Anita Cox, this candidate for Senate, her car's been stolen. Other people's cars been stolen. And it's funny, just the other day, a guy was going to ship a computer to me, and or a laptop. He said, are you really sure it's safe in your neighborhood? I mean, the word's getting out. If it's not in Darwood right now, it's certainly just down the pike in Rockville and Silver Spring. I mean, the number of carjackings and things going on, it's just beyond belief. And so it is an issue. I don't know how much of a driving issue it is yet, because like someone said, until it happens to you as the person, you can kind of just push it away. Healthcare happens to everybody. Education happens to everybody. Crime does not happen to everybody. But when it does, and even I said then, if some of the people have these other beliefs about defunding police and everything, even if the crime's against them, they're going to say, well, it was my fault.
We're going to have Dr. Nice on more often. This is the most engagement we've gotten in our chat in a while. There's somebody asking about uncontrolled spread of COVID and monkeypox. Do you want to comment on that or react to that?
Well, it's not uncontrolled. I cannot give you a good answer to that. It may not be what the person's looking for, but these things naturally control themselves. We are actually still breathing in the flu virus, the Spanish flu virus from 1918, but we're not dying from it. What happens is natural law, nature itself, it's called herd immunity. And you don't do lockdowns and everything else. And I guess I even wrote a book about, you allow natural law to take over. Each strain becomes less and less and less potent. And if you have natural immunity, basically, it's going to become like the Spanish flu. You'll breathe it in and you're fine. Viruses are basically non-living. A lot of people think they're non-living, but somehow they're smart enough to know that they're not going to mutate into a form that kills people. And if they do, they kill the people. They're going to mutate into a form that gives them life inside that body, but doesn't kill them, doesn't hurt them that badly. So I think coronavirus is totally controlled, or almost controlled now, just by natural immunity. Maybe not as much as it should have been, because the vaccine gave a different type of immunity. But using natural nature itself, yeah. Monkeypox is still basically in a very well-defined population. And if people would just have enough courage to say, let's control it in that population, and not do like we did with the coronavirus, we didn't control it in the vulnerable population, monkeypox is not going to be an issue either. It's not going to be uncontrolled spread. And I don't think there is an uncontrolled spread right now. Nature itself will control it. Humanity may spread it, but nature's out there fighting right back
Yeah,
to really
the
control.
media spread is a lot stronger, I think, than the actual monkeypox spread.
Oh, yeah.
So we have about 5 minutes left. So I want to give you an opportunity to talk about the books you've written, and then we'll go
Okay.
into talk about your kickoff event.
Okay, I've actually written 9 books. I've written most of my medications and breastfeeding. I've written a Creole book for students in Haiti on breastfeeding. I've written a Galactagog recipe book with my wife to help women produce more milk and maintain their bride. I've written a book called Why Did God Seat Me Next to the Toilet? You have to read it to see what that's all about. And the Haiti Beyond Belief, again, it's all about my experiences in Haiti. We talk about a lot of things that happen in Haiti. If you're going to have people in Haiti or people that really need help, read that book, and I think it'll turn your eyes. The last one was called SOS Need Pierogi Desperately, the Coronavirus Smackdown, Lockdown. I am Polish, and I saw this sign or this picture of an older Polish couple, and they were holding up a sign because of lockdown. It said SOS Need Pierogi Desperately, and there was no way for them to get the pierogi, then put that sign up in a window. And so and then the rest was about what goes on in Montgomery County. And in the book, you see the weasel there? That weasel represents Mark Ehrlich. And he's defined as the main protagonist in the weasel in the book. It's all these Weasley things he did during the pandemic that caused so much pain and destruction and hurt and discomfort and death and everything else. And I do a real good analysis of the whole situation. We lost our personal freedom. We lost our freedom to assemble. We lost our freedom to work. And I think the biggest one was Elrich now became the pastor of every church in Montgomery County. We lost and synagogue too. We lost our freedom. We lost the last stopgap to, things happening. And then I do a really big risk-benefit analysis to show how this really hurt us in so many, many ways. And then I kind of wrote, my concluding statement was that, let me hear just a minute. It is, God's natural law will not be smashed by humanity or by viruses. Humanity and viruses will ultimately be smashed by the natural law. And that if we let nature do what it's supposed to do and not interfere with it, and yeah, we can help nature, but don't try to become nature. Don't try to become the natural law. Let nature work with you. And you don't need lockdowns and all these things that we did. It hurt me so much that people's mothers and fathers were dying and they couldn't even go into the hospital and hug that person. It was just beyond belief. So I think now that Mark Elrich is going to be the candidate. Just as a side, on the 26th, on the upcoming weekday edition of USA Today, we're going to promote my book in the weekend edition. So hopefully this is the perfect storm, and people will read it and see what the natural. And I didn't know where the ending was going to come, what the answer was going to be, but to me it was the natural law, and I think it's a huge, huge lesson.
So we're coming up on the end of the time, and I know you're having a campaign kickoff, and I think that's also a great opportunity to tell people about how they can find out more and in contact with you, and perhaps even pose a few extra questions to you that we didn't get to.
That's cool. And at the kickoff, I'm going to, because people are so kind to come, each person's get a signed copy of my Haiti Beyond Belief book. I just really want to help the unfortunate, help the people of Haiti, and this is a good way. So
give us the details for your kickoff.
Okay, the kickoff is going to be at Martha Shear's house up in Durwood, and it starts at 6:30 on Saturday evening, the 27th, about 9:30. We're going to have Jimmy Kemp as our guest of honor, Jack Kemp's son. Jack Kemp played for the Buffalo Bills. We're going to have the Buffalo Nickel Band. They're kind of an easy listening, kind of Western, pseudo-Western polka type band. They even have an accordion in it. I play the accordion. And we're going to have buffalo wings, and there's all kind of buffalo things going on. We're going to have the book signing, and we're just going to have a grand old good time there.
It sounds like a tribute party for Mark. Mark's from Buffalo.
I think I sent Mark an invitation, but I haven't heard back yet.
Well, I unfortunately or fortunately, depending on your perspective, that night also coincided with my wedding anniversary.
Well,
Aw.
I know.
So,
I don't know if I can say this, but I would say, like almonds, we all say it anyway, is happy wife, happy life.
right, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So
We do
where
say
can
that.
people find tickets to this event?
They can go on my website, or they can go actually to. I mean, I've sent out everything to everybody. It's just out there everywhere. They email me.
We have a link on our website.
Yes, there is a link on the Montgomery County Republican Club's
Okay,
website.
yeah.
Check out.
Okay.
It's on Dr. Frank Nice for delegate.com. So plenty of ways to find it, or at the very least, send us a message and we'll send you the link to it if you can't
Thank
find
you.
it.
I know you have it, Jackie, and I know you asked for it. And Dwight does. Thank you. And Dwight,
Thank
is
you.
really-
Internet celebrities, you can come and take a photo with me. I'll be there. Well,
Okay.
Dr. Nice, thank you so much for joining us. Seriously, you brought in more comments than we've had in most of our previous shows combined, so that's pretty dang good.
Cool.
So there's definitely interest in you and your campaign. And Mark, thank you for joining me as always, and happy anniversary this Saturday.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Yes,
you very
sir.
much.
And we'll be back next week with another episode. Have a great night, everybody.
Hey,
Right.
thank you. It's been a pleasure. Appreciate it.